Year 11. So this is a summary today of week 2. So in your lessons this week, you should have been looking at the 5 problems that the Weimar Republic faced between 1918 and 1923. The really important thing to remember is for all of these 5 problems, you need to be able to do 2 things. You need to be able to both describe the problem, and then you then need to be able to analyse it. So you need to be actually explaining why it created such a problem for the new Weimar government. We're going to start off with the stab in the back myth, okay? This was something that came off the back of the armistice that was signed in 1918. So Ebert's new government, they had to sign the armistice. All it was is it declared that Germany had lost the war, they surrendered, and peace was declared in Europe. The German people were not happy about this. The armistice came as a real shock to them. The Kaiser had not told them any of the bad stuff that was happening in the war. They weren't really aware of the fact that the German army were retreating at this point. They were bitter, they were angry. Now, in terms of analysing that, you need to talk about the fact that this signing of the armistice made the Weimar government really unpopular. Okay, so right from the very start, they are a new government, very unpopular, lots of riots and rebellions happening in Germany as a result of signing this. Dolchstoß, okay, is that word that you can use when you're referring to this concept of stabbing in the back, okay? This is the German government stabbing the army in the back, betraying them by signing the armistice. Right, let's move on to the second one then, the Treaty of Versailles. You'll see this picture in the top right corner here. So the Treaty of Versailles was signed almost a year later in 1919. Now, this is important. Don't get the armistice and the treaty confused with one another. The treaty set out terms that Germany had to abide by after the end of World War I. Split into 4 sections: land, army, blame, money. Okay, it's helpful if you can give a bit of evidence from each of those. Okay, I won't go through that now, but just having a little bit of evidence from each of those 4 areas. Now again, you need to know that it was Ebert's government that signed the Treaty of Versailles, and you need to know that it was extremely unpopular amongst the German people. It had 2 main repercussions, the Treaty of Versailles, and this is your analysis that's coming in. It economically crippled Germany. Okay, the reparations that they had to pay back, Germany was not in the position to do that. It was bankrupt, and so therefore it damaged the country massively in terms of their economy. Second thing, it created political weakness. The government that signed it, Ebert's government, was seen as weak, and again it made them really unpopular and led to more unrest in the country. That brings us on to the third one, political challenges and violence. Now, whereas the first 2 are going in chronological order, 1918 for the armistice, 1919 for the Treaty of Versailles, political violence pretty much runs throughout this entire time period. You've got threats from the left wing and threats from the right wing. So extreme left, your communists, and then on the right, you've got kind of your fascist parties. On the left, 2 main threats. You've got the Spartacist Rising and you've got the Red Rising in the Ruhr, both from communists. Both were unsuccessful as they weren't very well planned. Your threat from the extreme right, you've got the Kapp Putsch, that group of Free Corps, the ex-army soldiers who Ebert had tried to disband. They were more successful. They did manage to take control of Berlin for a while, but the workers went on strike and eventually Ebert returned. And then you've also got the Munich Putsch, which was later on in 1923, and you're going to learn a bit more about that as we progress through the course. But remember, you've got threats from both the left and the right. That then leads us on to our 4th problem, which is the invasion of the Ruhr. The Ruhr being a really industrial region of Germany, lots of factories, lots of raw materials, things like coal being used there and being sold there. The invasion of the Ruhr, as part of the reparations, the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was supposed to send coal to France. In December 1922, they failed to send that coal, and so what France did is they invaded the Ruhr. They took control of the factories there. What the German government did in response was seen as very weak. They just ordered what we know as passive resistance. They told the workers to go on strike. The French, being very clever, sent in their own workers to work in the factories. So what it basically led to was 3 things. Debts increased, there was a shortage of goods, and you've also got this idea that unemployment increased as well. Okay, so 3 major problems coming off the back of the invasion of the Ruhr. Now this one links on to hyperinflation. You've got this idea that there is a shortage of goods in Germany. Germany is bankrupt as a country, and so its government decided it's going to print money. When it prints money, prices then go up, and in response to that, the government continues to print more money. What happens over time is something called hyperinflation. Money became absolutely worthless. Now the problem with that is that German people really struggled. People with savings lost all of their savings. You had this idea that bread went from being 1 mark in 1918 up to billions of marks by 1923. Workers were having to get paid twice a day. Again, all of this making political violence and rebellions much more prevalent in Germany. People rebelling against the government, wanting to get rid of them. The final bit of advice that I can give to you is you need to be able to do 2 things. You need to be able to talk about which of these do you think is the most significant, which created the biggest challenge for the Weimar government. And if you're really looking for that 7 to 9 grade, trying to link some of them together. So for instance, if the Treaty of Versailles hadn't been signed, the invasion of the Ruhr would never have happened because Germany wouldn't have had to have been sending coal to France. And if the invasion of the Ruhr didn't happen, hyperinflation wouldn't have occurred. So make sure that you can link together some of the reasons as well.